University of Phoenix students here. Is that one of the outlets and opportunities for remote areas where kids can get access to an education? And yet, what are the pros and cons in that, leaving those traditional curriculums? President Fox?
I think that in today's situation, the case of Europe, the case of this nation, that seem to be tired in pulling the wagon of development and carrying on the burden the leadership that the world needs. And fortunately, emerging nations with a high degree of creativity have come to take the challenge, and today they are the engines of the world economy, like the case of China, Tigers of Asia, India, Latin America, Brazil, Mexico. So my expectation, and I know it will come, is just here in my heart and my deep desire that the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, the new Bill Gates and the new Steve Jobs are coming to bring in what already happened in these last 10, 15 years. Nobody has figured out how much of the world growth is due to the internet, to the mobiles, and to all the technologies that we have today. So I'm sure that is coming. And also I'm sure in political terms and political arena, the Churchills, the Roosevelts, the de Gaulles are going to be back. I know the leaders will come in Europe, and Europe shall come back as a very strong leading region in the world, because we need them there. And I hope and I pray that the actual divide between North America and European Union can be eradicated, and we can pull the wagon back together. Otherwise, the shift is happening. Otherwise, the shift from the west to the east is on the move. And the challenge is then, how are we going to take the challenge in the case of the West? And I question myself many times, what are going to be the prevailing values in the center of gravity, of development, of markets, of financial power moves to the east? What are going to be the values of the Western civilization that we have lived by, the values of the founding fathers of this nation? So a lot of questions to the future, but I just feel very comfortable that leaders will come. And like George Friedman says on his book, The Next 10 Years, the next 10 years, the world is going to be shaped by leaders, by faces, by names, by second names, not by institutions or trends. On the long terms, it's institutions and trends. But these next years are going to be built by the Prime Minister of Britain, by the leader of the European Union, by President Obama here, by President Enrique Peña Nieto in Mexico, and by all the leaders that are on the arena. So we must trust them, although we must push them and force them to lead correctly on the right path.
Thank you, President Fox. We'll let you answer, Prime Minister. But going into that, with that, and looking at China as a strong powerhouse in the global workforce, and you've often said, Prime Minister, that we need to work with them, not against them, competitively. Work that into how you feel about with this technology and advancements as we move into a stronger global workforce.
Well, the truth is the world's coming together in a way like never before, and the internet and social media is a revolution. I mean, it's a revolutionary phenomenon. There's no doubt about that. And by the way, you know, those revolutions sweeping the Arab world would not, in my view, have happened without the existence of the social media. So it is literally in itself a revolutionary phenomenon. And, you know, my youngest boy is just coming up to his 13th birthday, and I was having a conversation with him the other day And I was explaining when I was his age, you know, that I didn't have a mobile phone. And he was like, no, go on, you're kidding. I mean, literally could not conceive of a world in which this technology didn't exist. And in Africa, by the way, what is fascinating is that the mobile phone is literally transforming the way the continent works. It's transforming business because people, even if they're in remote places, they get on their mobile. And so 5-6 years ago, there were 10 million mobile phones in Africa. There are 750 million today. It's just a revolution. Now, what does that mean for the rest of the world and the shift of power from west to east? Well, I think the key thing is this, is to understand the rise of China, and then after China, India, Brazil, a country like Indonesia that's got a population 3 times the size of Germany's. I mean, the shift west to east is irreversible. I mean, it's a fact. So the question is not whether we like it or we don't like it, the question is how we deal with it. And in my view, we should deal with it in exactly the way that President Fox has just said, by the West and countries that share the values of the West sticking together. Because as this century develops, and as the Chinese economy develops, and the size of it is extraordinary. I mean, just to give you an example from, because I go to China a lot now, and you know, we're having a debate in the UK at the moment about whether Heathrow Airport should have a 3rd runway. Right? It's a big debate. Right? Fortunately, I don't have to get involved in those debates anymore. But right, and it's all about whether on environmental grounds. China will build 70 new international airports and 240 smaller ones in the next 10 years. So frankly, our 3rd runway is not, you know, going to tip the balance one way or another. But this is, people find it hard to get their heads around the scale of it. Now, China, however, also, if it's going to reach the next stage of development, because social media is there, technology is there, an emerging middle class is there, they are going to have to develop themselves, politically and socially and economically. Now, how they develop is a battle between reformers and those who are against reform. It's vitally important that we are strong and stick together so that we form a strong pole of not of power, but actually of values to say, as China develops, the way that it should do so is in the evolution of greater democracy, greater openness, economically, socially, and politically. So this is a very, very important moment, and it's important that we stick firm with the values and convictions we have, because they should be the values that shape the 21st century.
You know, speaking of... Oh, I'm afraid of the federales, I understand.
Speaking about birthdays, today I understand is Tony Blair's... No? It was when?
The 6th.
Okay, well, anyway, a happy birthday to you, to Tony, please.